In a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Chicago, Jake lived a simple life. His small house was surrounded by tall trees and open fields, far from the noise of the city. Most people in his area kept dogs or cats as pets, but Jake had something different, a massive creature named Grizz. Grizz wasn't like any animal anyone had ever seen. Standing at 7 feet tall when upright, with thick fur covering its body and sharp claws that could tear through steel, Grizz looked more like a monster than a pet. But to Jake, he was family. Jake had found Grizz years ago, wandering near the edge of the forest. At first, he thought it was some kind of bear, but Grizz's movements were too quick, too intelligent. Over time, Jake realized this creature was no ordinary animal. He discovered that Grizz responded to commands, showed affection, and even seemed to understand human emotions. Despite his intimidating appearance, Grizz was gentle, unless provoked. Jake didn't know where Grizz came from, but he didn't care. The two formed an unbreakable bond. One evening, as Jake sat on his porch watching the sunset, the sky suddenly darkened. A strange object streaked across the horizon, leaving a trail of fire behind it. It wasn't a shooting star. It moved too slowly and deliberately. Before long, news reports flooded the airwaves about unidentified flying objects entering Earth's atmosphere. People speculated wildly. Was it a meteor, a secret government experiment, or something else entirely? Jake ignored the commotion at first, figuring it didn't concern him. But then Grizz started acting strangely. The big creature paced back and forth in the yard, growling low in its throat. Its golden eyes glowed brighter than usual, fixed on the sky. Jake tried calming him down, but nothing worked. Something had clearly unsettled Grizz, and Jake couldn't figure out what. The next day, things got worse. Strange ships descended over major cities around the world. They hovered silently above skyscrapers, their sleek metallic surfaces reflecting sunlight. Panic spread quickly. Governments scrambled to respond, but no one knew who or what was piloting these vessels. Then came the message. The cold, mechanical voice echoed across every television and radio station. "We are the Vryn. Surrender your world, or face annihilation." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He glanced outside, where Grizz stood motionless, staring up at the sky again. This time, however, the creature let out a deep, guttural roar that shook the ground beneath Jake's feet. It was a sound Jake had never heard before, filled with anger and warning. For the first time, he wondered if Grizz somehow understood what was happening, and if there was more to his monstrous companion than he'd ever imagined. Meanwhile, miles away, Emily was busy studying unusual animals for her research project. As a wildlife biologist, she spent most of her time exploring remote areas, documenting rare species. Recently, she'd heard rumors about bizarre creatures being kept as pets by rural families. Some claimed these animals weren't natural. They were hybrids created in labs, abandoned when experiments went wrong. Curious, Emily decided to investigate further. Little did she know, her path would soon cross with Jake's, and together they would uncover secrets that could change the fate of humanity forever. As the alien presence loomed larger, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Grizz was trying to tell him something important. Whatever it was, Jake knew one thing for sure. Earth's newest visitors were about to discover just how dangerous humans, and their pets, could be. The days following the Vryn's arrival were tense. People everywhere talked about the strange ships hovering above cities and the chilling message they had broadcast. Jake tried to go about his daily routine, but it was impossible to ignore the growing unease. Grizz, too, seemed restless. The creature spent hours standing in the yard, staring at the sky with unblinking eyes. Its growls grew louder each time a shadow passed overhead, even though no alien ships had come close to Jake's quiet neighborhood. One afternoon, Emily arrived at Jake's house. She had tracked him down after hearing rumors of an unusual pet living nearby. When she stepped out of her car and saw Grizz for the first time, her breath caught in her throat. The massive creature towered over her, its fur bristling as if ready to attack. But then she noticed something unexpected. Grizz wasn't hostile. It stood still, watching her with intelligent, glowing eyes. "Is this yours?" Emily asked cautiously, glancing at Jake. Jake nodded. "His name's Grizz. He's not dangerous unless you give him a reason to be." Emily hesitated before stepping closer. As a biologist, she had seen many strange animals, but nothing like this. Grizz didn't resemble any known species. It was as if someone had combined traits from bears, wolves, and something else entirely. Yet, despite its monstrous appearance, there was a sense of calm about it. Emily reached out slowly, letting Grizz sniff her hand. To her surprise, the creature didn't recoil or snap. Instead, it let out a low rumble that almost sounded like a purr. "I've been researching creatures like him," Emily explained as they sat on Jake's porch later. "There are stories about hybrids, genetically modified animals created in secret labs years ago. They were supposed to have incredible abilities, but the project was shut down because they couldn't control them." Jake frowned. "You think Grizz is one of those?" "It's possible," Emily said, "but I need to run some tests. If he really is part of that program, we might learn more about what makes him tick and why he's reacting so strongly to the Vrin." Over the next few days, Emily conducted experiments, observing Grizz's behavior and testing his senses. What she discovered amazed her. Grizz had heightened reflexes, strength far beyond anything natural, and most importantly, an uncanny ability to detect energy signatures. When Emily played recordings of the alien ship's hums, Grizz reacted violently, pacing and snarling as if sensing danger. It became clear that Grizz wasn't just growling at random. He could feel the presence of the Vrin. Meanwhile, the aliens began making their move. Small scout drones appeared across the countryside, scanning towns and villages. One evening, a drone hovered near Jake's property. Grizz spotted it immediately, roaring loudly enough to shake the windows. Without hesitation, the creature charged toward the machine, leaping into the air and swatting it out of the sky with a single swipe of its massive paw. The drone exploded on impact, sending shards of metal scattering across the field. Jake stared in awe. "Did you see that?" He took it down without even thinking. Emily nodded, her mind racing. This changes everything. If Grizz can do that to a drone, imagine what other hybrids could do against the Vrin. We're sitting on something huge here. As word spread about Grizz's encounter with the drone, Jake and Emily realized they were onto something bigger than either of them had anticipated. These monsters weren't just pets, they were weapons. And if humanity wanted to stand a chance against the invaders, they would need all the help they could get. For the first time, Jake felt a spark of hope. Maybe Grizz wasn't just his companion. Maybe he was Earth's best shot at survival. Emily spent the next few days digging deeper into the origins of Grizz and other creatures like him. She combed through old research papers, interviewed retired scientists, and pieced together fragments of information about secret government programs from decades ago. What she uncovered was both fascinating and alarming. The hybrids weren't just random experiments. They were designed to be apex predators, combining traits from some of Earth's most dangerous animals. Their creators hoped to create the ultimate weapons, capable of unmatched strength, speed, and intelligence. But there was a problem. The hybrids proved too unpredictable. Some showed signs of heightened aggression, while others exhibited strange behaviors that no one could explain. Fearing they might lose control, the government shut down the program and destroyed most of the specimens. However, a handful survived, either escaping or being sold off to private buyers before the project ended. Over time, these creatures faded into obscurity, living quiet lives in remote areas, until now. Jake listened intently as Emily shared her findings. He had always known Grizz was special, but hearing about the creature's true potential made him uneasy. "So you're saying he's not just strong," Jake said slowly. "He's smarter than we thought." "Much smarter," Emily replied. And if what I've read is correct, his senses are far beyond anything natural. That's why he reacted so strongly to the Vryn drones. He can detect their energy signatures. It's like he knows they're dangerous. Jake glanced at Grizz, who was lying in the yard, chewing on a log. Despite everything, the creature still seemed so calm, so ordinary. But Jake knew better now. Beneath that calm exterior was something extraordinary, and maybe even deadly. As Emily continued her research, she began reaching out to other people rumored to own similar creatures. Her first call led her to Sarah, a woman living in rural Montana. Sarah owned a sleek, feline-like hybrid named Shadow. Unlike Grizz's bulky frame, Shadow was lean and graceful, with razor-sharp claws and glowing green eyes. When Emily visited Sarah, she learned that Shadow had saved her life during a bear attack years earlier. Since then, the two had been inseparable. Next, Emily tracked down Ryan, a farmer in Kansas who kept a burly reptilian beast named Fang. Fang looked more like a dragon than an animal, with scales covering its body and a tail strong enough to knock over trees. Ryan admitted Fang wasn't easy to handle, but he swore the creature had a good heart. "He protects my farm," Ryan said proudly. "Nothing gets past him. Not wolves, not coyotes, nothing." Back at Jake's house, Emily shared what she had learned. "These hybrids aren't just scattered around randomly," she explained. "They're all connected somehow. And if we can bring them together, we might have a fighting chance against the Vryn." Jake frowned. "You mean use them as weapons?" "It's not ideal," Emily admitted. "But think about it. The Vryn are scared of them. Why else would they send drones to spy on places where these creatures live? They know how powerful they are." Jake hesitated. The idea of putting Grizz in harm's way didn't sit well with him. Grizz wasn't just a tool, he was family. Still, Jake couldn't deny the truth. If humanity wanted to survive, they needed every advantage they could get. That night, as Jake sat on the porch watching Grizz play in the moonlight, he felt a mix of pride and fear. Pride because Grizz was truly one of a kind, and fear because the road ahead was uncertain. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear. Grizz and the other hybrids weren't just monsters anymore. They were Earth's last hope. The Vryn wasted no time. After days of scanning Earth's surface and gathering data, they launched their first major attack. Cities around the world lit up with explosions as alien ground forces descended from their ships. The invaders moved quickly, deploying sleek, insect-like machines that fired beams of energy capable of cutting through steel. Panic spread like wildfire as people fled their homes, desperate to escape the chaos. Humanity fought back with everything it had. Tanks rolled onto streets, fighter jets screamed across the skies, and soldiers armed with heavy weapons took positions. But none of it worked. The Vryn's advanced technology rendered Earth's defenses useless. Their shields absorbed bullets and missiles without a scratch, and their weapons struck with terrifying precision. It seemed hopeless. In the midst of the destruction, Emily and Jake watched news reports with growing dread. The images of burning buildings and fleeing civilians weighed heavily on them. Grizz paced restlessly in the yard, his growls low and menacing. He could sense the danger, even though the fighting was miles away. Jake placed a hand on the creature's thick fur, trying to calm him down. "It's okay, big guy," he murmured. "We'll figure this out." Emily turned to Jake with determination in her eyes. "We have to act now. If we don't use the hybrid soon, it'll be too late." Jake hesitated. "You really think they can make a difference?" "They already have," Emily said firmly. "Remember what Grizz did to that drone. And from what I've seen, Shadow and Fang are just as capable. These creatures were built for combat. They're our best shot." With no other options left, Jake agreed. Together, they reached out to Sarah and Ryan, explaining the situation and asking for their help. Both were reluctant at first, but when they saw footage of the Vryn's devastation, they knew they couldn't stand by and do nothing. Within hours, plans were made to bring the hybrids together. The group decided to target a small Vrin outpost located near a deserted factory on the outskirts of Chicago. It was risky, too close to populated areas, but it was also vulnerable. If they could disable the outpost, it might buy humanity some time to regroup. Emily devised a strategy, using each hybrid's unique abilities to their advantage. Shadow's speed and agility would allow her to slip past enemy defenses undetected, while Fang's brute strength could tear through barriers. Grizz, with his heightened senses and raw power, would serve as the team's anchor, ready to face whatever came their way. As night fell, Jake, Emily, Sarah, and Ryan gathered at the edge of the forest, their monstrous companions standing tall beside them. The air was thick with tension, but there was also a sense of unity. They were an unlikely team, brought together by desperation and hope. Jake looked at Grizz one last time before turning to the others. "Let's do this," he said quietly. Grizz let out a deep roar, echoing into the darkness. Shadow crouched low, her glowing eyes fixed on the horizon. Fang flexed his claws, scales glinting under the moonlight. For the first time, these creatures weren't just pets or experiments. They were warriors, and as they moved toward the Vrin outpost, they carried the fate of humanity on their shoulders. The battle ahead would test them all. But one thing was certain: Earth's defenders were no longer alone. With humans guiding them and monsters leading the charge, the fight for survival had only just begun. The night was cold and silent as Jake, Emily, Sarah, and Ryan led their monstrous companions through the forest. The group moved carefully, avoiding open areas where they might be spotted by Vrin patrols. Grizz walked ahead, his massive frame casting a shadow in the pale moonlight. Shadow darted between trees, her sleek body blending seamlessly with the darkness. Fang brought up the rear, his heavy footsteps muffled by the soft earth. Each creature carried itself with purpose, as if they understood the weight of what lay ahead. Emily had mapped out the route to the Vrin outpost, choosing paths that would keep them hidden until the last possible moment. She whispered instructions to the others, her voice steadied, despite the nerves twisting in her stomach. "Remember the plan," she said. "Shadow goes first to disable the cameras. Fang clears the way once we're inside. Grizz stays close to Jake. He's our backup if things go wrong." Sarah nodded, gripping Shadow's harness tightly. "Got it. We'll get this done." As they approached the factory, the outline of the Vrin outpost became visible, a cluster of metallic structures surrounded by glowing barriers. Strange drones hovered above, scanning the area for any signs of movement. The sight sent a shiver down Jake's spine, but he forced himself to focus. They couldn't afford to hesitate now. Shadow was the first to move. With a flick of her tail, she slipped into the shadows, disappearing from view. Her speed was unmatched, and within seconds, she reached the edge of the barrier. Crouching low, she leaped onto one of the support towers, her claws digging into the metal surface. From there, she dismantled the surveillance system with quick, precise movements. One by one, the cameras went dark. "Clear," Emily whispered, signaling the others to advance. Fang took the lead next, charging toward the barrier with incredible force. His scaled body smashed through the weakened section, creating an opening wide enough for the rest of the group to pass through. Sparks flew as the alien technology short-circuited, alerting nearby drones. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed across the compound. "Move," Jake shouted, urging Grizz forward. Grizz roared, the sound reverberating through the air like thunder. The noise startled the drones, causing them to falter momentarily. Seizing the opportunity, Fang tore into the machines, ripping them apart with his powerful jaws. Meanwhile, Shadow darted between enemies, disabling more drones with swift strikes of her claws. Inside the outpost, the team encountered Vrin soldiers, tall, insect-like beings armed with energy weapons. The aliens fired at them, their beams crackling against the hybrid's tough hides. Grizz stepped in front of Jake, shielding him from harm as he swiped at the attackers with his massive claws. Fang joined the fray, using his tail to knock several aliens off their feet. Shadow zigzagged through the chaos, targeting the soldiers' weapons and rendering them useless. Despite the odds, the hybrids fought with unmatched ferocity. Their strength and instincts made them unstoppable, turning the tide of the battle in humanity's favor. As the last Vryn soldier fell, the group regrouped, catching their breath amidst the wreckage. "We did it," Sarah said, her voice filled with disbelief. "They're gone." "For now," Emily reminded her. "This is just one outpost. There are more out there." Jake looked at Grizz, who stood proudly beside him, chest heaving from the fight. He placed a hand on the creature's shoulder, gratitude swelling in his heart. These monsters weren't just tools. They were heroes. Together, they had proven that even Earth's strangest defenders could rise to the challenge. But as the group prepared to leave, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning. The Vryn wouldn't give up easily, and the road ahead would be long and dangerous. Still, for the first time since the invasion began, hope burned brightly in his chest. If humans and monsters could stand side by side, maybe Earth still had a chance. The success of the first mission boosted the group's confidence, but it also brought new challenges. News of their victory spread quickly, thanks to Emily's careful documentation of the battle. Governments and resistance groups around the world began reaching out, desperate for help. They wanted to know more about the hybrids and how they could be used against the Vryn. At first, Jake and the others were hesitant. Sharing their plan meant risking exposure, not just for themselves, but for the creatures they had sworn to protect. Emily, however, saw an opportunity. "We can't do this alone," she explained during a meeting at Jake's house. "If we want to push back the Vryn, we need to unite everyone who has one of these hybrids. There are dozens of them out there, maybe even hundreds. Imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together." Jake frowned, pacing the room as Grizz watched him silently. "It's not that simple. These creatures aren't weapons. They're living beings. What happens if people try to use them wrong? Or worse, what if the Vryn find out and target them directly?" "I get it," Emily said gently. "But think about it. Every day we wait, the Vryn grow stronger. We've seen what Grizz, Shadow, and Fang can do. If we bring in more hybrids, we might actually stand a chance." After much discussion, the group agreed to expand their efforts. Emily reached out to other hybrid owners, sharing her findings and urging them to join the fight. Slowly but surely, more people came forward, each with their own unique monster. There was Lucas, whose bird-like hybrid, Talon, could soar through the sky at incredible speeds, and Maria, who owned a serpentine creature named Coil, capable of squeezing through tight spaces and striking with deadly accuracy. Each new addition brought fresh possibilities, but also added complexity to Emily's plans. With the team growing larger, Emily turned her attention to strategy. She spent hours studying maps of Vryn activity, identifying key locations where their forces were concentrated. The aliens relied heavily on energy hubs, massive structures that powered their ships and equipment. If they could destroy these hubs, it would cripple the invaders' operations. "The next target is a hub near Denver," Emily announced one evening. "It's heavily guarded, but if we hit it hard enough, we can take it down." Jake nodded, though his expression remained troubled. "And if something goes wrong? Last time, we barely made it out alive." "We'll be ready this time," Emily assured him. "We have more hybrids now, and we know how the Vryn operate. We'll train the creatures to work as a unit, combining their strengths to overwhelm the enemy." Over the following days, the group practiced tirelessly. They taught the hybrids to respond to commands, honing their instincts and building trust between humans and monsters. Grizz proved to be a natural leader, guiding the others with calm authority. Shadow showed off her speed by darting between obstacles, while Fang demonstrated his raw power by smashing through barriers. Talon scouted from above, relaying information to the team below, and Coil slithered into hidden areas, uncovering weaknesses in their defenses. As the mission approached, tensions ran high. Jake spent long nights staring at the stars, wondering if he was doing the right thing. Grizz often joined him, sitting quietly by his side as if sensing his doubts. "What if I'm making a mistake?" Jake asked one night. "What if I'm putting you, and all of them, in danger for nothing?" Grizz let out a low rumble, nudging Jake with his massive head. It was as if the creature was telling him not to worry, that everything would be okay. Jake smiled faintly, scratching behind Grizz's ears. "You always know how to make me feel better, don't you?" The morning of the attack arrived too soon. The group gathered once again at the edge of the forest, their monstrous companions standing tall and ready. This time, the stakes were higher and the risks greater. But as Jake looked around at the faces of his friends and the determined expressions of their hybrid allies, he felt a spark of hope. Together, they had already achieved the impossible. Now, they were about to try again. "Let's finish this," Jake said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. Grizz roared in agreement, the sound echoing through the trees. With that, the team moved forward, stepping into the unknown. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The attack on the Vrin energy hub began under the cover of darkness. The group moved swiftly, guided by Talon's sharp eyes as he scouted from above. The bird-like hybrid soared silently through the night sky, his keen vision picking out every detail of the enemy's defenses. Below him, the rest of the team crept closer, their monstrous companions ready for action. Emily led the way, her voice low as she relayed Talon's observations to the others. "There are 4 guard towers around the perimeter," she whispered. "Each one has 2 soldiers and a drone. Coil can slip through the fence and disable the drones without being seen." Maria nodded, giving Coil a gentle pat on his scale back. The serpentine creature slithered forward, his movements smooth and silent. Within moments, he disappeared into the shadows, slipping through gaps in the fence too small for any human or alien to notice. One by one, the drones fell silent, their systems disrupted by Coil's precise strikes. "Now it's our turn," Emily said, signaling Shadow and Fang to move in. Shadow darted ahead, her glowing green eyes cutting through the darkness as she leaped onto the first guard tower. With a swift swipe of her claws, she took down the Vrin soldiers stationed there. Fang followed close behind, smashing through the base of the second tower with brute force. The structure crumbled, sending debris tumbling to the ground. Grizz roared loudly, drawing the attention of nearby patrols. Jake gripped his companion's fur tightly, feeling the vibrations of the sound ripple through the air. "That's our cue," he muttered, urging Grizz forward. The massive hybrid charged into the fray, swiping at enemies with his powerful claws and shrugging off blasts from their energy weapons. His sheer size and strength made him an unstoppable force, clearing a path for the others to advance. Inside the hub, the battle intensified. Vrin reinforcements poured in, their insect-like bodies moving with eerie speed. But the hybrids fought back with unmatched ferocity. Talon swooped down from above, using his razor-sharp talons to knock weapons from the aliens' hands. Coil struck from below, coiling around their legs and pulling them off balance. Together, the creatures formed a perfect team, each playing to their strengths. As the fight raged on, Sarah noticed something crucial, a control panel near the center of the hub. "That must be what powers the whole thing," she shouted over the chaos. "If we destroy it, we can take this place down." Emily nodded, quickly devising a plan. "Fang, you're up. Smash through whatever's blocking the way. Shadow, keep the soldiers distracted while we get inside." Fang lumbered forward, his heavy tail smashing through walls and barriers as if they were made of paper. Behind him, Shadow weaved between enemies, her agility making her nearly impossible to hit. When the path was clear, Jake and Grizz stepped in front of the control panel, protecting Emily as she worked to disable it. "This isn't going to be easy," Emily muttered, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "Their tech is advanced. It'll take me a minute to override it." Just then, a group of Vrin soldiers appeared, their weapons trained on the team. Before they could fire, Grizz let out another deafening roar, the sound shaking the entire hub. The aliens hesitated, their confidence wavering in the face of such raw power. Seizing the moment, Fang lunged forward, knocking them aside with a single swipe of his massive claws. Finally, Emily gave a triumphant shout. "Got it," she cried, pressing a button that sent sparks flying from the control panel. The lights flickered, then went out entirely, plunging the hub into darkness. Explosions erupted as the energy core overloaded, sending shockwaves rippling through the building. "We need to get out of here. Now," Jake yelled, grabbing Emily's arm and pulling her toward the exit. The hybrids followed closely, shielding their human companions as they fled the collapsing structure. When they reached safety, the group stopped to catch their breath, watching as flames consumed the remains of the hub. For the first time in days, a sense of relief washed over them. They had done it. They had struck a major blow against the Vrin. But even as they celebrated, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the war was far from over. The Vrin wouldn't give up easily, and there would be more battles to come. Still, standing beside Grizz and the other hybrids, he felt a glimmer of hope. Together, they had proven that Earth's defenders were stronger than anyone expected. And as long as humans and monsters stood side by side, humanity still had a fighting chance. "What's bothering you?" Jake asked, noticing her distant expression. Grizz lay nearby, his massive body sprawled across the ground as he panted heavily from the fight. Emily hesitated before answering. "It's the way they acted back there. They didn't seem confident. I mean, they're supposed to be this advanced species that's taken over hundreds of planets, right? But tonight, they felt scared. Scared of us." Sarah chimed in, raising an eyebrow. "We're the ones who should be scared." "No," Emily said slowly. "Not of us. Of something else." Her words hung in the air, leaving the group silent. Jake glanced at Grizz, then at the other hybrids, wondering if Emily was onto something. If the Vrin were truly afraid, what could possibly scare them?